I guess that's the holiday, because we were talking about like, you know, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. That's like our themed months. And it's like, well, what do we do after that? And I guess it's award season, even though award seasons are dumb, but also they're fun. This is like it's like sports for us, where, well, maybe not sports, because people get very, very invested in sports.
Yeah, people actually care. People who are into sports actually care about sports. It's like I do love following the award season, but it's not like by any metric, and I don't think a lot of I don't know if anybody does this, but it's not like I'm gonna, this movie won Best Picture, so that's the best movie of the year or whatever, like.
Oh, yeah.
I still have my own awards in my brain, I guess.
Your fantasy football draft.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be cool to do. I don't know how exactly you could do that with, like, I guess it's just voting or just doing ballot predictions, but some sort of like just go through the gamut of the whole award season and do like fantasy football style, like, how do you think these movies are gonna do at this award show, at this one,
right? But then it's like, with fantasy football, like, people track, because like fantasy football, it's like, it's not really specific teams. You like draft your own team and you kind of go by individual stats of individual players. I think that's how it works.
Yeah,
but it's like,
because
like when
you pick each position, and they could be
gotcha
from all different.
Right, because I know like when Aaron Rodgers, like, his Achilles tendon exploded or whatever the hell happened to him, people were like, well, there goes my fantasy draft. But like, imagine doing that with, like, I guess it's less impactful on their chances of winning, but I like the idea of just like, oh, god damn it, Alan Ruck drove his truck into somebody. Like, there goes my draft. He's not going to win anything now, or... It's like, it's like, oh god, this guy got listed on the Epstein list. He's not winning the Emmy now. Shit, my draft is all messed up.
I mean, you could say that same last one for people in football too. So I mean,
yeah,
literally.
Did you see Stephen Hawking was on the list? Did you catch that?
Should I laugh at that? I don't know.
Well, I think Epstein. Epstein, yeah, they didn't put that in the theory of everything. The little trips to Little St. James. I think it was because Epstein like kind of courted a lot of people in like academia and science, because he was one of those guys that was like he saw Futurama and wanted to be one of the floating heads that lives forever. Mm-hmm. So I think that was his relationship with a lot of those like sciencey guys. But then there was, I can't tell if it was like satirical or not, but there was someone that was like, Stephen Hawking liked to watch like little people try to like draw something on a chalkboard that's too tall for them. And I didn't look into it further. I could not tell if that was like an actual quote from these files that got unlocked, or if someone was just, having a bit at my expense. But I'd like to believe that it's real. But there are some like pictures of him on like a submarine, and it's so bizarre to just see him in his chair, and it's just like, you're on like pedophile island right now. Like, it's the weirdest shit.
That's I'm dumbstruck. I don't know how to handle. I don't know how to process this information.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Hawking jokes are back on the table, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, L, you fell off, you're already dead, plus you got listed on Epstein's log. You're mid.
Oh, yikes. Well, this went in a darker place than I thought. I actually had
Did you actually have a cold open?
No, well, it was gonna be about like the award show and stuff, but it was kind of like on the opposite end of like darkness spectrum, because I was gonna I forgot the gold. All I was gonna say is I forgot the gold. I always forget when the Golden Globes are on. It's kind of my tradition. And I was reminded because my grandma called me up to ask if I was watching the Golden Globes, because there was a woman who just accepted awards and she had huge boobs that were falling out of her dress. She just wanted to make sure I knew.
That was it was the woman from The Holdovers. We watched, that was like one of the early awards, and when she accepted, we were both just like holy shit. They were we were the floating above like Chloe's like, I think I can see her areola. So
I'll have to I'll have to watch.
That's very cute that your grandma
speech later.
Yeah, that's very cute that your grandma like still calls you up, because she's like, oh, that's TJ. He likes the movies.
Oh yeah,
and the boobies.
Yeah, shows me. But no, we instead decided to talk about other things.
But
yeah, hey.
It's on the brain. I gotta get it out.
Ain't that a perfect setup for the
darkness
that we're gonna talk about? Welcome back to ThereWillBeDuds, ladies and gents. This is episode 133, and I'm your co-host, TJ, and with me as always,
I am Nick.
And as always, we watched a movie, and this week. That movie is The Celebration from 1998, directed by Thomas Vinterberg. It is about a family who goes to a mansion or hotel owned by the patriarch, the father, who's celebrating his 60th birthday. And at the dinner, with all the guests and family around, the eldest son decides to divulge some dark family secrets in front of everybody, and unraveling of emotions, relationships. It's pretty grim. It is from this is our second movie of his, the first being The Hunt, and to, if that's any indicator, they kind of are different, but same topic, kind of. And this is the first Dogma 95 movie, which was a movement that Vinterberg and Lars von Trier started in the 90s. Certain way to make movies. We can kind of, if we want, we can kind of like go into that and break down the rules later, but we can start with we'll just generally talk about our feelings about the movie. But I'm sure, we can get into the whole Dogma stuff.
Yeah. Well, I had some leftover Christmas money, like, Visa gift card, Christmas gifts. So we went to Barnes & Noble the other day, and I said, screw it, and I just bought it. So I do actually have The Vow of Chastity, which is like the full list signed by Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg for like the rules of how this movie is supposed to work. Did we talk about it when we watched The Hunt? I feel like we maybe mentioned it briefly, that was like, I think it might have maybe as like a footnote for Thomas Vinterberg as like one of the founders of this movie style, even though The Hunt doesn't really adhere to that. No. One thing that was interesting, I saw that like Harmony Korine's name was in there as like an American adapter of that style, which makes his movies make a lot more sense to me now, in like why they look like that. I really had a good time with this movie, even though, I mean, the subject matter was not
not a good time.
Not a good time, but I was all in on the style once I kind of read the list of how like the rules that they had to follow. I thought it was really cool to see everything done in that hand cam style. And I was thinking, the movies that we did growing up, we were kind of, I came up with the term dog cell, in that we were like involuntarily Dogma 95s pilled because like, oh, you can only use stuff that you have around the house. Yeah, perfect. That's what we do. No professional lighting. All the lighting has to be natural. Yep, that's how we did everything. I was like, yeah, us, Thomas Vinterberg, Lars von Trier, you know.
I like using it as an excuse for like, that's, that's why, we're just, that's the only reason.
Yeah. I thought everyone in this was great. Some of the misdirects were really fun. Like I feel like the beginning of the movie, they really try to keep you guessing as to like who's going to be like the sort of central conflict, because I read about it a little bit. That was like a dinner party, 60th birthday, and then basically some family shit starts happening. And the movie at the beginning kind of leads you to think that it's going to be Michael, because like he's kind of this wild child who, you know, he's like, he wasn't invited to the party. Like when they get there, they're like,
yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm like, was he like the new butler? His name was Lars, because he's like, he like act like he didn't know who he was.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it's like he gets there and this new guy doesn't know who he is, and he's like already pissed, and he's like, sir, you're not on the list. And so you're like, oh, okay, there's some like drama with the father and this guy. You're like, that's what's gonna be the central thesis, like the central conflict. And then you get to the speech, and like my jaw dropped when he I was like, oh, that's what the family conflict is going to be about. Okay.
It's worse
than I could. So this is technically like a black comedy. Like that's kind of what it's listed as. And there are some funny moments, but I
mostly
lost
black.
It.
Like mostly just
very dark. I lost it when he does that speech and is basically like, yeah, my father brought me and my sister into the room and he raped us and sexually assaulted us. And then there's like a beat, and then one dude starts clapping and they like shush him.
That was so perfect. That's like the best false start applause in like any movie. It was so amazing. It was so good.
The guy's just like, okay, good speech. And they're like, stop it, you moron.
Tak for de mange gode år, og tillykke med det.
And it's like the way that he does this, really like every speech that he gets to, is so good, because he's like the whole time he's like, he does it in like the manner that you would do like a birthday toast speech, and he doesn't break from like, okay, now I'm getting serious and talking about something really serious and dark. He's just like, yep, this is what happened, and cheers to you, Dad, happy birthday. And then he sits down and like, I don't remember if it's then or the next time
he comes. He comes back
in,
and
like says like, here's to the man who murdered my sister or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's when like everybody else like leaves the dinner hall, and then it'll like go to them. They're like, you know, in another room all like chatting, or like, oh, that was whatever. And then it'll cut back to Christian. He's just eating. He's still just eating dinner.
Everyone else gets up and he's just sitting there, just like, no, I don't give a shit. Because like the first part of this movie, he's very like broody. It almost looks like he's like disassociating.
Yeah,
like he's just kind of sitting there staring blankly at all of this. It reminded me of like The Room and the party scene when she's like, all right, everybody, let's go outside for some cake. The guy's like, all right, everybody, let's go have a cigarette in the parlor, and everyone just kind of gets up like, oh yeah, all right, and they all go and leave. I read the little booklet of like the analysis and kind of thoughts about the movie, and there was a few interesting points, but the one thing that I thought was interesting was the way that like this movie like kind of skewers. They're not even like royalty. Like it feels like they're royalty because it is in like this big, I was like, why does this look like a hotel? And then you learn it is a hotel. Yeah, because I'm like, there's no way their house is that big, right? But it's like this sort of send up of polite society, polite manners, because every revelation about like, yeah, my father did this and my father did that and he's a terrible person and I think my mom was complicit too. It's all like he says it and everyone like doesn't react, and then they're just like, all right, next speech. Because it's like dealing with it is far too ugly that they just gloss it over and they keep going. And like even like the movie sort of ends that way, which I mean I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I thought the ending, I was like, that's a very abrupt ending. And it does this thing where like the talking of everybody, the volume swells and then it cuts to black, and it's like even though the dad just got ejected, like the son finally the other son finally had the courage to like, Dad, we need to eat our breakfast, so you need to leave. Like that was,
it was so good. I love that ending. I thought it was great.
And it's like the beast has been defeated, and yet as he's sitting there, everyone is still just like kind of politely chatting with each other, and it like the volume kind of swells up and then it cuts to black, and it's almost like it's like a hydra, like you cut the one head off, but it like it's gonna keep growing back, like this sort of problem with upper class people that like to ignore, like Jeffrey Epstein, like our friend in our cold open.
Sure, yeah.
It's just like, it's not polite, and like you can like oust someone, but that does not necessarily like get rid of that problem, and everyone else just goes right back to like chatting over breakfast and champagne.
I was more like, for that ending, my thoughts were more just with Christian himself, like that face he makes. He's like just kind of staring off, like you said, as the crowd swells, and as like the way that I took it was like, I won. I don't think he was like regretting what he said, but he still like lost his father.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Probably like his mother too, at the very least. And like, it's like, overall it was like a good end. Like it's better than if, his dad got away with it, but it's still like a very kind of dour ending. Very, very much like, and also just how the information is doled out and accepted by people. I felt a lot of parallels with The Hunt. Because of like it, but like kind of in reverse, I guess. But I just think of like that, like the boiling point in The Hunt kind of being similar to this, and then how people like adjust to kind of the wrapping up of that movie. And then, in that one, Mads Mikkelsen is like, he's more or less accepted back into the community, but then somebody, I don't know if you remember the ending where like somebody shoots at him in the distance and like doesn't see. So it's still like, nope, you don't get a perfect, you don't get a super happy ending. It's always gonna be a little bittersweet, or a little twinge of bad still in there.
Yeah, and it's still, it's like, you may have like ruined your dad socially, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably still going to live in that giant house and like still be like very, very wealthy, and like, other than like, I guess, losing his family, which I guess you could say is a pretty big consequence, but like in terms of like,
sure, consequences
like hard time or prison or anything like that, he's probably gonna be fine. So it's like, it's definitely like a victory where it's not the happiest victory.
And then I want speaking of Michael, he's probably like he's probably my favorite character, I think. Like I feel like I got the most out of watching him as far as like individual characters. Like the one I was most interested in, the one I was most like I really like his arc of being like, you know, the loser son, the adulterer, the racist.
Yeah, that was
all this stuff.
That was fun.
Yeah. But I loved watching his you know, his journey, his arc in this, where like he starts out as just kind of like the loser. His dad's like, you know, behave yourself for this. Like your brother's not gonna be in the Masons or whatever. You behave yourself at this party. Maybe we can work something out. So then he's all trying to be, you know, like, you know, trying to act like an adult, and then Christian starts saying all this stuff about his dad, and he's like, oh, I'm the favorite now. You know, dad doesn't like Christian anymore. Sweet. So then he takes it on himself to be like, you know, the muscle.
His dad's bulldog. Just
yeah. And that
you don't like what this guy's saying? We're gonna go tie him up to a tree out in the woods. Yeah.
But I also love just how much he consistently like fucks up to different degrees. Where like they kick Christian out the first time, they just throw him out the front door, and then he just like kind of fidgets with the lock, and they're like, is it locked? And he's like, just whatever, let's go. And then Christian just opens it because he didn't lock it, and then they take him back outside, and the other guy starts like hitting him, and then he's like, hey, don't hit him, he's my brother. He's like, come on, lay off. And then Christian like spits at him, and then he starts punching him.
Yeah.
And then the other guy grabs like this big stick, this big like 2x4, and he's like, "Come on, what are you doing? Put that down. Don't be crazy. This is my brother. We're not gonna do that." And then he fights back again, and then he's like, "Where's that stick?"
Yeah, he grabs the stick and comes back at him with it. There's no consistency to his like, I don't know, his morals or whatever. Like he doesn't know. I mean, he doesn't know how to, which is fair. I feel like not just somebody like him. That's a tough situation to be in for anybody, really. But it was just I really liked watching him. His, you know, how much he changed, and then him kind of being the ender, that final thing made that scene all the better. Like it would, like that dialogue would have been good anyways, but I love that he was the one that went over there, and he's like, he's like, that was a great speech, Dad, well done, but we need to eat, so you need to get out of here. And the dad just like he's just like, okay, all right. Yeah, he's like, he gets it. So like the night before, or I guess the night of the party, after everyone's kind of gone to bed, Michael goes and like confronts his dad. He's the one, because it's like Christian is the one that would have all the reason to want to like drag his dad out of the house in the middle of the night and like beat the shit out of him, but like, it's like whatever Michael believes, he is 100% in on it no matter what. Because it's like, before it's like confirmed about like what Christian's accusing, you know, he's like, yeah, come on, you're not gonna shit on Dad, are you? And he has all the shit, and then they read the suicide note from his twin sister, and that basically confirms everything. And then it's just like a flip is switched, and he's like, actually, I hate Dad now, and he's just like 100% on that side too. And there is an incredible scene transition during that fight scene with the dad that I think has to be intended to be at least somewhat comedic, but it's like, so as Michael goes and fights the dad, I think it's in this scene, Christian is like playing the piano while his sister and her boyfriend are like dancing. They're kind of like having a sibling moment, I think there's a spot where Michael like kicks his dad in the nuts, and as soon as he kicks him, it cuts to Christian just hitting a piano note really, really hard and intense. And I thought, like, I was like, all right, that's a good cut. Like one of those like visual matches I think we were talking about the other week about, like, you know, shooting somebody's brains and then like splattering ketchup on a plate. Like, I was like, oh, that's a really good like visual sort of like jink, and then like the song starts playing when he gets kicked in the balls. The other like moment of like really, really dark comedy that I thought was great was when his sister does read, because like, yeah, at the beginning it's like the sister, I feel like, gets the least amount of screen time, or like her story is kind of like to the wayside between the two brothers.
Little, yeah.
But yeah, so at the beginning you find out that like she's in the room where her sister killed herself. Like, that's the room that she's been assigned to, and they're playing like warmer, colder. Like, I guess before she died, her sister left clues, like with like arrows pointing to this, leaving the clues, and then she finds this suicide note meant for, I think meant for Christian. It kind of addresses everyone, but at the end it's kind of, and at the dinner table, she finally reads this note, and when she gets up to give the speech, Christian is sitting there at the dinner table, and I love that he's like she's giving
yeah, that's right, yeah.
He like
when she says his name, he's like
that's me. Like, he's just being like really silly about it. Like, I love that he goes from like, you know, staring blankly, disassociating, to like almost having this sort of like playful, like, oh cool, someone else is gonna like shit on dad.
Yeah. So I guess let's I do kind of want to talk about the Dogma 95-ness because of how it like, with it in mind, like, if you had no idea and just come into this, I wonder like if you'd have like a different perception of it, or if you'd just be like, wow, this is a really low budget movie.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, so I'll try to do it shorter, but the rules are, number 1 is shooting must be done on location, props and sets must not be brought in. 2, the sound must never be produced apart from the images or vice versa, and it has to be diegetic. 3, the camera must be handheld. 4, it must be in color, which is interesting. Special lighting is not acceptable. 5, optical works and filters are forbidden. 6, the film must not contain superficial action, murders, weapons. I think it's saying anything that you show in it actually happens.
Right.
7, temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden, meaning it just has to happen in the present, in a normal place here and now. 8, genre movies are not acceptable. 9, must be an Academy 35mm. 10, the director must not be credited. Some of them like don't matter for like the actual movie itself. And something to note, this is not unique, but this is the first Dogma 95 movie like approved by these guys. I mean, Vinterberg is one of the creators of it, sure,
right?
But like it breaks a rule.
Yes,
as do from what I've heard, a lot of them do. Like, I don't know the number. There's apparently 35 total Dogma movies, Dogma 95 movies. And I know like the couple that like Lars von Trier, the other creator of it, made, like his also break a rule, or two. So it's kind of funny that like they don't even adhere to it, and even like the first Dogma 95 movie breaks a rule, and they're minor, sure, but it's like, but if you're going to like make that standard, and it's just kind of funny. I'm not like, it's their own set of rules. You can't really say like, you know.
Yeah. Because it's very funny that the movie has this certificate of authenticity when it's like, yeah, yeah, bitch, you made the rules yourself, and then you awarded yourself a certificate of authenticity. Like exactly. It looks like it has this. Yeah. It's like this movie has the distinct honor of meeting all of the criteria that we made up for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks like the rule that they broke was pretty minor. I'm assuming you're reading from the IMDb trivia.
Yeah, and I heard, or I don't know where else, but I knew that this one did break it, so I was looking for it in it. It does feel like not every shot is handheld. I feel like some of them they may have used tripods or something.
There's a few, like when they're in the bathroom, there's a couple like really high, like looking down type shots, and those are like very still, and I'm like, that doesn't look like it's handheld. Like you can't use tripods?
I don't think so. It says the rule just says camera must be handheld. Any movement or immobility attainable in the hand is permitted, which I think means you can use like Steadicam, I think.
Right.
It's like as long as somebody is actively like holding the camera.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean there were some really nice shots that I really liked early on when like all the people are arriving to the party. There's one where at the beginning, which I feel like is a great introduction to the character of Michael and kind of his whole deal, where he sees his brother walking to the house. He's like, oh shit, that's my brother. Screeched, pulls back, like, hey, you want to ride? And then he kicks his entire family out of the car to make them walk. But it's like, there's room in the back seat for everybody.
I know.
I'm like, what a dickhead. But there's like a really cool shot where I think it's when Michael and Christian show up, where it's kind of filming, and you see the car, and then it's like as the car like speeds in, it does like
that's
a
when I thought you were.
It was like this really cool, like really fast, like whip over to like the car parking in front of the mansion. I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool little handheld shot. Like I feel like being handheld, there are in that limitation, there are more opportunities to get creative and inventive and try to compose your shot in different ways. Now that like you can't do it in the studio way or the way that you're like supposed to do it in conventional movie making.
Yeah. And I'll say I did like that shot. I thought that was cool. But I will say the first like 5-10 minutes, it was kind of like I was thinking of Who Killed Captain Alex, where I was like, okay, I knew this was the style, but this is like, it literally feels like a home movie. At least the first the first few minutes. And I was like, I was worried. I think in retrospect, I would not really have this feeling as much, because I got used to it pretty fast, much like Who Killed Captain Alex. But it was like with that, it was like with VJ Emmy, I was like, oh man, this is intense. This is a lot. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna like be able to
finish the movie.
Attention.
Yeah.
Or but to the skill of the directing or writing or what have you, or the acting, I quickly got over it, and I started to really like it for what it is. Much like Who Killed Captain Alex, I came to love VJME. This being the only one of the Dogma movies I've seen, it feels like I was kind of asking myself throughout, like, kind of wondering, especially with a scene I'll reference in particular for this, but like trying to decide or discern or whatever, like what it's, how do I put it, like a chicken or the egg thing, where it's like, was this story made this way, were certain things done this way because they had to, because of the restrictions, or was it like the other way around, where like did they take the, did he start with Dogma 95 with those rules and be like, okay, what can I tell in with these restrictions, or did he have this story in mind and was like, okay, how do I what do I have to take out of this, or what can't I do, and
I
whatnot.
gotcha.
Like, and the scene that I'm thinking of referencing, or that I was going to reference, is Christian's little kind of dream sequence thing he has after he passes out, and he sees his sister, and it's really dark, and the only light, because one of the rules in Dogma 95 is you can't do any artificial lighting. So the only lighting is like this little lighter that he's holding, this little like Zippo lighter. And on the one hand, I was like, that's a really interesting way to do this dream sequence, and it's kind of it works for that the emotion of the scene or whatever. I kind of really liked it, but also I'm like, but would they have done it that way if not for the rules? Like, if this wasn't a Dogma 95 movie, would they have just lit it a different way? But I like that they had to do it that way. I like those, that that he's actually holding the light. And I think it's kind of like, again, not having seen any of the other ones, I feel like it's like the perfect movie for this concept. Like, the handheld nature, that home video nature about this subject, it makes it feel so much more stressful and tense. And whereas, if this was shot like a more traditional movie, I'm sure that would still be there, but it makes it feel so much more like real and just gritty and rough in the way that it's filmed. And I just kind of think it works so perfectly with the subject matter and everything.
Right. Yeah, because usually, I have to remember that this movie takes place in modern times. That's one of the rules. But it's in this sort of historic building that I think if you were watching any other movie, I just saw two movies, Saltburn and Poor Things, that both have like these sort of aristocratic buildings. And I also think of like The Favorite, like those types of movies.
Sure, yeah.
The way that those movies are shot it's like it really accentuates like the historical nature of these buildings. But with that handheld style, it's much more claustrophobic. The place does not seem beautiful like whatsoever, even though I think you look at the picture of the actual building that they used, and it's like this really, really nice old school like castle, mansion, hotel, whatever you want to call it. I feel like it adds to a sort of grittiness that the whole family drama and the whole family secrets and this sort of I don't know, send up of that high society, it really makes everything look claustrophobic and ugly and just gross and dingy. I was like, I wonder if the Safdies watched this for like Good Time and Uncut Gems, because those movies are also like, they take something that is usually portrayed in movies as like, like New York City. It's like, start spreading the news, like that kind of depiction of New York. And then it's like, no, it's grimy and dirty and gross, and this is like the real New York. And it's like, this is the real like wealthy hell, Succession, like all those kinds of shows where it's like all these billionaire people and their children are just like, they're all insanely, I guess the children aren't as insanely shitty as the patriarch as they are in like Succession, but it's like, that sort of same idea where, and I feel like there's even like another layer where it's like, that's a familial thing to do, is like you make home movies, right? Like my dad filmed Christmases and birthdays and special events and all that kind of shit. Adding that like hand cam quality to like airing out your family's dirty laundry, I feel like is like another layer of that.
Yeah, and like you could also imagine that somebody attending that birthday party would be filming it,
Right,
like,
right.
It's a, kind of a milestone birthday of like a pretty well-off man. So, yeah, you could totally believe that somebody would just be filming it, just
right.
And that's just what they capture for the most part. I mean, they're not going to film the guy's dreams and stuff, but,
Yeah, to the point where, like, again, on the IMDb trivia, there were even some members of the party at the dinner table that had to use the handheld cameras for some shots.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is kind of cool because like that, I feel like that adds to that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, talking about like being limited by the rules, I thought some of those shots, because they weren't allowed to use any sort of artificial lighting, like I really like the shot where Christian finally kind of wakes up from being tied in the woods, and he's just like silhouetted. Like I thought that was, it's like, okay, that's a cool way to work around having to shoot outside in the dark, is to like try to frame it so you can kind of see the light in the sky from like the moon and like get him silhouetted. Or again,
I literally have done that before, like in stuff. Like
it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? This'll work, I guess.
Yeah,
you know. And then compare that to like what we did with Wendy's, where we just kind of had a floodlight off camera to like light us up in the dark, and we're like, it's a reality TV show, so that would make sense in there that they would have that. But like, that was our solution, is shooting in the dark. You know. Trying to think of other shots. Like I feel like the piano scenes, like near the end, kind of when they're all like in the ballroom dancing and kind of letting loose a little bit after all of this drama has unfurled. I really like the candlelit look to that. I think a candlelit anything is gonna look nice. But yeah, the whole movie, as soon as the sun goes down, there's just like a constant like film noise grain that is there. Yeah. And it didn't take me out of it at all.
No, really. Yeah. Once I kind of got into the story, you know, once you spend time with the characters, you and that is kind of the whole point of Dogma 95, I guess, is that the idea is that you strip away any technical stuff, so you're just focusing on the story and the characters. That's their kind of thinking behind it. But I will say, I kind of think that had the opposite effect on me, but I don't necessarily think that's like a bad thing, because I really like looking for these, you know, like we're talking about, like these, you know, what they had to do, what accommodations they had to make to be able to make it in this way, while still following the rules, but still trying to tell the story. So I don't think that like their reasoning or whatever worked, but I kind of think it's better for, like, I think maybe they should change their reasoning or something, because I liked that it made me pay more attention to the filmmaking than maybe I would have otherwise.
Yeah. Like one of the notes is like, to get a sort of dreamlike effect for like the audio, someone was like swinging a microphone around.
Yeah.
I may have talked about this before, but there's like an Instagram account that I follow that's just called Shitty Rigs. And the entire account is just like ways that people try to film, like it'll be like some like very, very precariously made. Why can I never get those two? Which one is it?
Precariously.
God damn it.
Precocious is like coy, or
that's it's like a very precarious, like 2x4 rig with a camera on the side of it, and then they stick the camera on there, and then they drive the car, and like that's how they get their driving scene, is like they basically have to like conjure up a PVC pipe wooden thing to make it work. And I guess that would break the rules of this because it's not handheld, but it's sort of like the same idea where it's like, okay, we've limited ourselves to this, so this is the only way that we can do things. How do we do it? And yeah, like I guess the point was to make a movie that like you pay attention to the characters, but I think you can still do that and still appreciate the limitations, and like I feel like that adds to it in a way.
Yeah,
like go ahead. No, I mean, there was like an interview with Thomas Vinterberg on one of the discs, and I watched it, and there was a part where he's talking about like music, because the only music that is allowed is music that is happening in the scene. And he's like, what do you do when you want music in the scene? And he's like, oh, well, people sing. And so in the movie, there's like a couple, they sing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow at one point in time. Like, and then the horribly racist Danish folk song that they do.
Yeah.
Where I love that it cuts, because, their sister has a black boyfriend who shows up, and Michael is immediately like, who let this monkey here? Like, he literally calls him a monkey, and it's like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
He like offers him like $500 to just leave. Mm-hmm. And then as like a move, he makes, and like everybody goes in on it. Really, immediately they're like, oh hell yeah, I love this song. And everybody starts singing this song that's just like, boy, you sure do talk funny and you have a lip piercing, and it's just like this horribly racist song. And then like the sister is clearly distraught, but it cuts to the boyfriend and he's just kind of looking, and it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't understand a single word that anyone's saying. So he's just like, oh, what's this song about? But I love that like eventually like the sister and the sister's like trying to leave, and the mother comes up to her and is just like, oh, are you going so soon? And it's like, did you not hear the part where everybody, our entire friends and family, just sang a racist song about my boyfriend?
Yeah.
Just like, but that would be rude to leave early.
Well, I'll tell you what, it could be if why like the mom had that attitude is because she has already witnessed terrible things happening to her kids, and it's established that she turns a blind eye. So that's very in line with her character.
Yeah, that is true.
Just be like, hey, come on, don't spoil
it's
the
nothing
fun.
personal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what I was gonna say was that like I think what I was kind of getting at with that is like my process of like getting into the movie was, like I said, beginning I was like, okay, this is very, very homemade looking, like I was saying. But then it was like, then what got me into it, what got me kind of invested was the characters, was the story, because they do, even though, it's a little while, it's like 35 minutes before, you get into the meat of the movie. It does a good job at like, setting up these characters, making them interesting. And then once I was invested in the characters, then I came back and was like, wow, this is really cool filmmaking. So it was like, it did work in that sense, right? Where I, did focus on the characters and the story first and foremost. But it didn't take me long to, once I was into that and into what was going on, then be roped into how it was made and everything.
Yeah, because like by design, it is intended to completely disrupt your like view of what filmmaking is supposed to look like and like what it's supposed to be. So the beginning is like incredibly disorienting, where everything is just like sort of ugly and yellow because it's shot with these little hand cams with DV tapes, much like The Ungrateful Dead,
Yeah, also shot very shittily.
I blame Justin.
Yeah. Man, that'd be awesome to do like on your Criterion copy, there's like some behind the scenes video where the cameraman's like, Thomas Vinterberg has had sex with a man 13 times. That kind of shit.
Yeah. Action.
Yeah.
Ugh. Got anything else?
I don't think so. I'm good to move along if you are.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I think I went first last time. Did you? No, you went first on Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
So it's.
I mean, it doesn't matter too much to me.
Okay. I know.
Sorry, I said that and then I wasn't sure who actually was going. But okay, I'll go first. I went with an 8. I thought it was like a solid 8. I don't have. It's one of those where we kind of covered everything. Covered how I felt. I think it's a great piece of independent filmmaking. Again, I haven't seen any of the other ones, but I feel like it's a good choice for the first one of this movement, because I think it's just such a good utilization of the format, but it's also just got a really stellar cast across the board, I like this Tomer Vinterberg feller. I've only seen the two that we've done, and then
Another Round.
Another Round.
I really want to see Another Round.
I would still say I think The Hunt is still my favorite one of his. But the other two that I've seen are pretty great. He has an interesting career where he has these like very strong like drama, like dark comedy type movies, but then he has this submarine movie with Colin Firth, and he's done a couple music videos that I had no idea. He did a Metallica music video and a Blur music video, which
that's awesome.
The Blur one was like 99, and I don't know, not entirely, but I wonder if like in the back of his mind he was like, this is a Dogma 95 music video and they don't need to know about it, because it is like, it's different. The whole music video is like the bandmates, all the guys in Blur, they like go to sleep, and then the whole video is them filming them while they sleep.
Okay.
It's all like, just handheld camera. They'll like integrate, if they like shuffle or like cough in their sleep, they'll like integrate that like into the audio of the music video and stuff. So I do kind of wonder. I would like to see if there's like a little snippet of like an interview where he's like, yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah. He's got like another one with Joaquin Phoenix and Claire Danes. It's all about love from like 2003. He was talking about some of these in the thing that I watched on the Criterion release. I think two of his early films are on like the second disc. The Boy Walking Backwards, and I think he has one called like The Last Round, which I think is his like a student project that he did or something along those lines.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, I ended up on a 9. I really liked this one.
Nice.
I thought the family drama was really well done. I thought the characters were really well done. I like this sort of like analysis of it, of like these like, posh rich culture and like that like the bubbling underneath, stuff like impoliteness that no one likes to talk about, kind of like Blue Velvet with that sort of like white picket fence and then like the ants festering on the ear underneath. I guess I just like that stuff. I like that sort of drama. And I thought the style, the Dogma 95 style, was really like like you said, this is like the perfect movie to introduce you to that style, because it gives you that whiplash at the very beginning, but then it's like you get pulled back in by these characters and like what's going on. And as soon as like Christian gives that speech and basically like lays it all out on the table, you're like hooked on like, okay, holy shit, where is this gonna go? What is going on? Like, how is this gonna get resolved? And it is one of the more satisfying movie endings that I've seen in a while. So I really liked it. That's a 9.
Tight. Awesome. But I'm glad you liked it. Cause I like I mean, I'd never seen it before, but I like bringing in more world media from outside the US, so I'm glad we had a good time.
And his English is really good. Thomas Vinterberg, the way that he's like speaking in the Criterion thing, I was like, oh shit. Like he's definitely got like an accent, but it's not like a thick one. Like, I don't know. He's very articulate. So I was like, oh shit. Okay. Cause he kind of does dip his toes in with like American casts, you know.
Yeah. He has a couple like English speaking movies and stuff. So he's sweet. Okay. I feel like maybe mine should go first. Mine's more like an experience rap.
Oh, okay.
I had seen before.
I saw what you said on Letterboxd, so I was wondering if you went to go see something.
Yes. Yeah.
What did you go see?
So the local orchestra symphony did a like play along with The Godfather, where like they played the movie, and then like wherever there was music in it, they played live stuff. I'd seen that done before with like and he even introed it by saying like, this is how silent movies were shown in theaters back in the day.
Right.
They had like a little pit band that played, and I've seen a couple of those at some film festivals, which are pretty cool. But so I'd only seen these movies once before, a couple years ago. I watched the trilogy in like the span of a couple days or whatever, and I remember coming away with it being like, it was one of those, like, I think I talked about this like last week or the week before or something, where it's like, those were really good movies, but that's about it, kind of thing. Like, they were really well made movies, right? And you know, could have been aided by the fact that like I was seeing it like on the big screen in a, you know, theater setting more or less, so, you know, no distractions. I think that helped a lot. I think just I'm pretty sure when I saw it the first time, it is a movie where it's a 3-hour movie where it's just a lot of people talking in rooms and stuff, and if you're not like, in it, you can lose track of what's going on pretty easily. So I think that helped a lot. And then the band was fantastic. I was worried about the like levels, like the mixing, like when they started playing music, it was gonna like drown out the audio of the movie. And they did have subtitles going the whole time. I think it was
that's good.
But I thought they mixed it perfectly. Like it was nice. It was really impeccable how they matched the sound, and also just their timing was perfect. It was very, very well done. And I this time I watched it and I was like I get it. Like yeah, I admit, hot take, I love The Godfather now.
Nice. All right.
Totally wrapped up in it. I fucking loved it. It was so good. It's a case where it's like, yeah, I love it. It's amazing. Not the best movie of all time sort of thing, but still an amazing movie. And I just it was so funny how like I knew where everything you know, I knew where it ends. I'd seen it before personally, and like I think even before I saw it, I more or less knew, like, you know, I knew the characters that like died. I knew kind of like where it ended. I knew there was a sequel, so you know, I knew, you know, it couldn't be too absolute or whatever. But I still found myself being like, every scene was engaging, and like I wanted to keep. I was like, okay, wait, what's gonna happen next? What's in the next? When does this thing happen? When does this thing happen? And yeah, I just found myself really getting into the characters, because like I do remember the first time I saw it, just like there's the guy. God, well, I'm blanking on his name now, of course, but he's one of their like the family's capos. He's kind of like one of their main dudes, Clemenza, who has the famous line, "Take the gun," or no, "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." Which you've probably heard, maybe.
Yeah.
And you know, I knew that line. I heard it a million times, and the first time I saw it, I remember that scene. And I didn't remember that character at all, other than that. I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy that says that line. But this time I watched it, and I loved this character. I was like, okay, I know who this guy is. I know, you know, remembering the names. I you know, I'm paying attention. And yeah, he's a really great side character. And Marlon Brando's great. I actually do you know any of the story beats?
I know there's a horse head in the bed at one point in time. I know. I mean, I started the movie about a year ago. I started it, and then Chloe was like, "We need to watch it together." So I stopped it. So I saw the beginning where it's like it's the wedding, and everyone's kind of coming to him and basically like kissing the ring, sort of like asking him for stuff. That's really about it. Like I know it's like kind of like a bunch of people die. Yeah, I know there's like that really famous scene where I don't know if it's in the first or the second one, where like it's one of those like the men are talking scenes where like his wife is looking at him and then he shuts the door when he's in the room with everyone else, his wife or girlfriend.
Yeah. Diane Keaton's character. Yeah.
Is that how it ends? Is that how the first one ends?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay, good. Well,
I will say regarding the end though, there's a that I wish I could say, but I don't want to really say because it is like the end. It's not like the thing that happens, but it's like characters talking about it afterwards, and there's this tense moment where like the one character is, like asks the other one a question, and then there's like this really tense moment where they pause, like thinking of their response, and then they lie, and the response from the audience I was with was like sigh of relief. And if anybody's listening who has seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about, and that's not how you're supposed to feel at that moment. You are not supposed to feel relieved at all. It's supposed to feel bad. It's not happy. It's not really a happy ending. So there was that. Awesome. I would say most of the time though, it was like a good audience. It was very receptive. It was just a very weird moment. And then the fucking credits rolled, and people stood up and started clapping, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? There's music in the credits. We're here with a live orchestra. Wait until the fucking credits are over to start applauding, you idiots. The people who made the movie aren't here.
Yeah.
The people performing the music are. And so
dude,
really the audience was like whack.
I mean, I've been at screenings at the Wealthy Theater, which there's not even there's not an orchestra or a live band at all, and I think people just get so swept up in the movie magic that I've seen people like applaud for movies, and I'm like, this is weird that you guys are doing that. This is a good movie, but
I could if we were just seeing The Godfather, and there wasn't people literally like performing the music. Of which,
I see.
There is always, it's kind of normal for movies to have music during the credits. And it's like, really, most of the time they were playing music, they'd play for like 30 seconds or a minute because they're just scoring to a movie. They're not doing whole songs. So really, the credits was the orchestra's time to shine, because that's where they get to play for like 5-10 minutes straight, where they don't have any other time like that throughout the movie. So really that's like their time, and it was just weird because it's like these people are literally here and you're clapping over them, and eventually people stood up and were like applauding, but then like halfway through the credits it like died out and people sat down. I'm like, yeah. But anyways, the other thing, not towards the end, maybe middle-ish, there's a part, okay, a lot of people die, sure, okay, there's a person very close to the main characters who die, and it's just a scene of Robert Duvall and Marlon Brando, and Robert Duvall telling Marlon Brando that this person died, and it's just a very quiet, not a lot of dialogue scene. It's very kind of simple. But dude, I cried. I surprised myself. I was really into the movie, but I was still surprised that I cried. I think I was just so swept up in the experience. of, having them. There's no music in that scene, but kind of being there in that environment, just being like, wow, I'm getting to see, like, it's The Godfather, Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando. These guys are really fucking good actors, and it's just this quiet scene, and it's not a super dramatic, like Marlon Brando hears he died and he's like, ah, it's not like a Nicolas Cage sort of like Vampire's Kiss sort of cry, but just very, very good. And I got emotional. Also, having recently done a Dog Day Afternoon, I was paying extra attention to Fredo, John Cazale's character, who isn't in this one as much. He's in the second one a lot more. But every time he was on screen, I was like, oh man.
that always adds an extra weight to stuff. I mean, every time I see Philip Seymour Hoffman in anything, I get hit with that.
Yeah. And it's funny that like Fredo's kind of like of this, serious mafia crime family in this serious mafia crime movie. He's the comic relief character. And that's not like, that's not like comic relief, haha, silly guy, but he is the one, if there is one.
Right.
He still has that like that underlying like sadness that you get in like his character in Dog Day Afternoon, like we were talking about. He's
got a very like sort of sympathetic, sad face. Like he can really portray that really well.
Yeah. That was it. I'm self-admitted. I like The Godfather now. Apparently they're not confirmed, but one of the people that was working there said that they were thinking of doing
part 2.
Try to do the second one like next season. I'm like, yes.
I would. You know what? I would watch the first one to get caught up. To watch the second one because I've always thought that'd be fun. Like I know they do that with like Lord of the Rings and like Harry Potter.
Them say that would be Lord of the Rings in that that would be a fucking religious experience for me.
Yeah.
I would ascend.
Even hearing like concerning hobbits, I get like a little weepy about it. So it's just like. Or the movie would start and I would be like,
I know. No, I'm thinking of the one that starts Fellowship is it's I forget if it's Gollum's theme or Smeagol's theme, but it's the
yeah.
Oh my! Hearing that live, like I get chills like thinking about.
Oh yeah, it would be very cool.
Yeah. And that you kind of get that with this because, although, I'm not as tied, I'm not as in love with The Godfather as Lord of the Rings. So it wasn't quite, but it was still cool. It was like, wow, okay, this is The Godfather, cool. But that also starts with like, titles kind of fade in the way that Lord of the Rings ones do. And you get The Godfather it's got a very iconic theme song. I know it and I haven't. Yeah. And
now I'm just thinking of other things that I would like to see done.
Yeah.
With like a live score.
On May the 4th, Star Wars Day, they're doing a Star Wars orchestra, and they're opening with Duel of the Fates, and that song goes fucking hard live. That would be so cool. It's the one that plays when they're fighting Darth Maul. It's like you probably heard. It's another one you probably have heard, even if
yeah.
But it's like this very intense. It's during like the final fight scene of the Phantom Menace. But there's like this very strong vocal chorus in it too, just going ba ba ba.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be so cool to hear live.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah, well, maybe I'll watch the first one in hopes that they do the second one, and then I'll try to catch that, because that would be neat. I've never seen any of those before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, for sure. I am in the watched some new stuff corner this week.
Whoa.
Watched a couple movies that one's already on streaming. I don't think it was in theaters, but it wasn't in for very long. And then I saw one in theaters today. First one, we watched Saltburn the other night with Barry Keoghan. Rosamund Pike is in it. Jacob Elordi, who I guess is from Euphoria. I don't really know him from like anything else.
People love he's Elvis in that Priscilla movie.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. And then there's one kid in it that I was like, I know you from somewhere. He was one of the kids in Midsummer. Not like the main group, but the guy and his girlfriend who kind of show up later. They're both like darker complexion. He's kind of got like a little bit of a fro. They're the ones that like.
I know. I've seen like images or whatever for Saltburn.
Yeah.
So I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he's in it. Very, very polarizing movie online. Like a lot of people, it's like 1 star, 5 stars. A lot of people are very, very like passionate about this movie being great or this movie sucking. And I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah. It's kind of like it kind of reminded me of The Favorite a little bit. Like Barry Keoghan's character is kind of like this. It takes place in like 2006, and he goes to like Oxford, and it's sort of like he ingratiates himself with the rich family, and then spends a summer at their mansion. And so he's kind of like the outsider when like the other kids are like they're just rich kids. You know, they live in this mansion. It's very posh. They have a butler, all that kind of shit. And he's basically like trying to ingratiate himself in there. And there's a little bit of conflict between.
It's the Charlie and Dee find love episode of It's Always Sunny. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is that the one with Stephen Collins from like Seventh Heaven? Like the rich guy that they're trying to get money from, and that he ends up like donating.
No, the one who's like their dad or whatever. No, it's the one that's got Alexandria Daddario. I know, because she like, it's her and her brother are like rich people, and like they start like seeing Dee and Charlie separately, and it like ends with them finding out that their family just like
makes fun of them.
Yeah, but then like
yeah.
But Alexandria Daddario like actually liked Charlie, but he like totally like destroys her at the end.
Yes,
I don't remember
yes.
how it goes.
Yes,
it's a really
I remember that episode now. Yeah. But it's directed and written by Emerald Fennell, who did Promising Young Woman from 2020, which I think was another movie that some people were like, nah, about. I never saw it. But I mean, you know, if asterisk, she is the prototypical like parents have blue names on Wikipedia like rich kid. Like I'm a filmmaker because my parents are well connected. I didn't let that like cloud my judgment of this movie, but a lot of people are like, they'll kind of shit on it for that. But it's definitely one of those like Barry Keoghan gets to be a little creepy guy, although he's kind of like more of a leading role where he's not Killing of a Sacred Deer creepy, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, there's some wild shit that happens. There's I thought visually it looked really good. Here's the weird thing between The Celebration, Saltburn, and Poor Things that I watched this weekend. All 3 are in 3:4 aspect ratio.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, Saltburn, I feel like ever since The Lighthouse and like A24 movies, I feel like a lot of those movies now are like, yeah, we're going to put it in 3:4 and have like a film grain over it to, you know, be artsy. Because this movie definitely had that sort of like film grainy, like film noise look to it. But everyone in it was pretty good. The colors were really nice too. Kind of reminded me of Suspiria sometimes. In like, there's like a big party scene where there's like a ton of people on like the grounds of this mansion, and there's like a lot of like very primary colors, kind of in different rooms when they're walking around. But yeah, you know, a lot of the criticism, it's like this movie's not like saying anything, or it's like it's pretentious. I went into it and had a really good time. It is pretty depraved in some spots though. So yeah, I don't know. I'd recommend it. And then the other one that I saw that I was really looking forward to was Poor Things, which is the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie. The only other ones I've seen,
definitely more intrigued by, personally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen Killing of a Sacred Deer, and then we did The Favorite. Yeah, we did The Favorite for the show. So those are the other two that I've seen. This one, do you know like the basic premise of it?
Isn't it like a sort of Frankenstein?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a twist on that, sort of.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as like spoiler free as possible on like how everything works out. But basically, Willem Dafoe was sort of like, there's like one of those scenes where it's like he's performing surgery and there's like people in like the wings looking down sort of deal, where he's like kind of explaining like, oh yes, you cut the liver here with the scalpel and blah 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 blah. But he kind of has this like Frankenstein type deal where it's like he's very good with dead bodies and he also likes experimenting with dead bodies and seeing like there are like chimeras in this movie a lot. Like you'll see a duck's body with a pig's head on it kind of shit. It's very visually striking. But yeah, Emma Stone is really good. She's like full frontal naked for a lot of this movie.
Cool.
Like, but it's like it's baked into the character where it's like,
I assume there's a lot of like nudity in Saltburn too. So you've gotten like that's another thing all three of the movies have in common.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There's not shit ton of nudity in Saltburn. It's a lot. There's like some implied eroticism. There is one scene in particular that does have a lot of nudity in Saltburn, and boy, you will know it when you see it. But yeah, Poor Things, because she's kind of like, it's kind of like, what if Frankenstein could like adapt and learn about the world? Like he starts out kind of like, but then it's like he kind of has more world experiences, and it's basically sort of like well, I need to experience the world, and then like her concept of sex is so funny, where she's just like why aren't people doing this all the time? The hand feel good dance, like that kind of shit.
Well, I mean, that is what Frankenstein, the book, is like.
Oh, really?
Have you not read the book?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I think Chloe's got it. She's into.
It's easily like my favorite of the books that I had to read for school. It's my favorite. It's
okay.
It's awesome. Yeah, the Frankenstein book is
Okay.
Highly recommend. Another very old thing I'm recommending this week.
But yeah, this is done in the typical Yorgos style, where there's a ton of like anamorphic lenses and like fisheye lenses, where it gives you this weird, uncanny feeling. Mm-hmm. There's and a lot of like the not wallpaper, but like the scenery is wild. Like there's a scene where they're like on a boat and the sky is like impossibly blue and purple and like swirly, that has this very otherworldly feeling to it. And there's like one character that she meets that I swear to God looks like one of those, like, do you remember those AI Balenciaga videos? You know what There's a character, he's wearing like a tan suit with like a hat and sunglasses, and the way that like he's lit, I was like, it almost looks like it could be AI generated. Like I know it's not, but it has that dreamy sort of like colorful way where I was almost just like, this guy could be like Balenciaga. Like one of those types of things. Yeah, it was
again. I love that. I love those dumb videos, like the Breaking Bad ones and stuff.
The Breaking Bad ones. Mr. White, we need Balenciaga.
Yeah.
Like that, like house techno music that's playing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Rami Youssef is in it.
Yeah.
He's kind of one of the main guys. Willem Dafoe is great in it. This is a really fun Mark Ruffalo role. He is like the funniest part of the movie, hands down.
Oh, okay, cool.
He kind of looks like Paul F. Tompkins. Like he's kind of got like his hair like wavy, gelled back, and he's got like a little twirly mustache. He's very Paul F. Tompkins coded. Yeah, definitely a wild ride. Yeah, kind of a fun take on Frankenstein as well, and a very, very satisfying ending, I would say. So, yeah, go see Poor Things. It's the Oscars are going to be interesting next year because this is all 2024. Well,
no, I think that'll be in. Yeah, because hot off the presses, because she just won a Golden Globe for this.
Oh, well, shit. Okay, well, this Oscar season is because they haven't even announced it, have they?
Not the Oscars. No, they're gonna be late. I think because of the strikes or whatever. Some of that stuff got like pushed back a little ways, so it's gonna be in like April or something.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be competitive this year because there's a lot of stuff
do too.
that.
Yeah. I was looking
like
at
I think.
Sorry.
Like Poor Things, Saltburn, Oppenheimer, Barbie.
That's
I don't know if Dream Scenario is going to get nominated for much. I still need to see that. I really badly. Killers of the Flower Moon. Like there's a lot of tough competition. I feel like is going to be this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I was like when when I had the tab open and saw when they were doing the nominees for like Best Director, I was like, man, these are all like heavy hitters, and and so like, you know, Barbie is such a, I think, like wild card too.
Yeah. Not that I want it to win, but it would be very funny if Barbie won Best Picture.
Best Picture, yeah. I feel like that's a thing they're probably like not going to let happen, but that would be very funny. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that I haven't seen that's getting nominated, but it does seem like a pretty solid year for movies last year, you know.
Yeah. And I'm gonna try to be more proactive about seeing shorts blocks because I know like the Celebration Cinema, I think you went to them last year, but like best animated shorts, best, like, I don't know, wasn't there like international shorts? Like I want to see more of those blocks of like the you know, the lesser categories, I guess.
Yeah. I know, I don't remember if they do split it up by like like US and then foreign, but they do like animated short, they do live action documentary, and then live action narrative. I don't know if there's any others, but honestly, like a lot of them are, I just found on YouTube, like uploaded like by the companies. There was only a handful that were you know, hard to find.
Oh, okay.
And
I'll be more proactive about watching them on YouTube if they're available.
That would be my recommendation, because I probably would have been grumpy if I had paid to see those vlogs, because all of them had like, the animated shorts was pretty good. I think overall was pretty good, but man, if I had to pay to see like either of those live action blocks, it's just, they each had like one good one, and then like the rest were garbage.
Yeah.
So yeah, go YouTube. Go the YouTube route. Always go the free route. Never pay for anything.
True. All right, we are one more normal movie, and wait, yeah,
one more normal.
Okay.
So we can wrap it up. All right. Well, this is I don't know how to introduce this. This is another movie. We'll just say that.
We did it again.
From 1948, directed by John Huston, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, it's what do you call him, or what's his name? Humphrey Bogart. And I'm trying to think if I have seen a John Huston movie or not, but he is considered like, you know, one of the old greats. I've seen movies with him in it because he was also an actor.
Right.
If he did the Maltese Falcon, I have seen the Maltese Falcon. He did. Okay, so I've seen one of his movies before. All right. Anyways, now that I figured that out for myself, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre is available on Amazon, Google Play, Apple TV for the rent for a few bucks. So yeah, watch it at one of those if you don't want to be spoiled for it before next week's episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube and Twitch in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I actually forgot the lyrics to that folk song that we all know and love by heart. So embarrassing. Sorry. So I'll just bid my farewells and say that I'm TJ, and with me as always. Man, I'm just locked into the wine cellar. That guy never got resolved. Oh yeah.
He got locked in that wine cellar, and that was the end of his story. And I am Nick.
And cheers.
Cheers for sure. Yeah. It's a long life and happy family.